Welcome back to RBR, guys, and check this out. It's a brand new Vantage that's just burst onto the scene, and it is a stunning looking car, finished here in Cosmopolitan yellow. I can't wait to show you all the details, so first come close and let's have a look at this wider, far more powerful car at 665 PS. Yes, you did not hear me wrong. It's a powerful brute. Let's have a look around it. Guys, look at that. That is stunning, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of what you expected after the V12 came out, and we all love the original Vantage. Or some of us didn't. It had two different faces, if you remember. This one, I don't think is as Marmite as the face of the previous generation. That is really stunning. It's taken the best bits of like Vantage V12, a bit of the DB12 as well, and merged it into what is just a much more Aston Martin looking front end, I think. I love the lights. They're a bit fatter. All of this just works for me, but the best thing about this, and you probably won't appreciate it from the figures, is that it's 30 millimeters wider. If you come around directly on the front, you'll start to see that. It's just become more square, a bit more like the V12 Vantage was. And I will compare this car directly to that in situ, as we always do at RBR with a bit of VFX, but you can really tell the width of this thing, the stance really sets it apart. It's not just from the front as well. You look at it directly from the rear, and it's really getting wider. So that's great. But when you come in closer and you start to look at more details, our grille is almost 40% bigger now. That's not because of design. This is actually needed for the cooling, because like I said, we've got 665 PS in this car, 800 Newton meters. That's a lot out of a pure combustion rear-wheel drive sports car. So it needs the cooling, and it's got the cooling. We'll talk more about cooling later. We've got air intakes here on the side as well. We've got a fixed splitter at the bottom, again, helping with the width of the car. The lights, like I said, I love. They're a nice upgrade to what we had previously on the Vantage. A bit wider, a bit thicker, I think a bit more strong, a bit more masculine. The flatter over here, and it just makes this front end look even wider. Bonnet is beautiful as always with our two air outlets sitting there. It's a good, really good looking, it's not like the Vantage wasn't already a brilliant looking car. This just builds upon that, and I think it's taken out some of the bits that a lot of people were maybe unsure about in the previous version. And of course, a bit of width. We always love a bit more width in our sports cars, don't we? And this has really got that. Side of the car, gorgeous as ever, muscular. Of course, the width helps. Like I said on the rear, when you come slightly more direct rear, you can really appreciate the extra width that's afforded by adding this vent in, the extra width you have here. Of course, we've got the usual quad pipes and the carbon lower diffuser. I'm glad that they kept the signature Vantage lights. Again, it was something that was quite Marmite in the original car, but I think it's instantly recognizable as Aston Vantage, so it's great that that's kept. Now the wheel design, Aston always nail wheel design, but that's not what's interesting here. What is interesting, and I'll fill you in more about it later in the video, is the tire, it's the rubber. We've got the wonderful new Michelin Pilot Sport S5. But as you can see here, this little detail, this is AML specific compound specifically for our lovely new Vantage. It's going to help with steering, it's going to help with grip. So that's going to be great. Not only that, notice the size of these rear ones here. You just need to appreciate the size of these. These are, where is it? Oh, there it is, 325. These are some thick boys. They're big boys, and they're going to help with that traction, with that launch control, and I'll fill you in on that later in the video. And the other bit that is actually new on this is our front wing here. If you have a look at this design, they've added a really nice fin here, which here is finished in gloss carbon fiber with Aston Martin written on it. That's a nice little addition. Again, making this look a little bit more premium. We've still got our massive side sills here finished in carbon fiber, really making the car look wide. This is a really handsome thing. And then, big upgrade, because I know Vantage interior, bit hit and miss for some people. I loved it previously, but now it's taken a massive upgrade. We've got the carbon seats as an option from the V12 Vantage, which are absolutely stunning. And of course, the huge upgrade of the interior, shared with the new generation DB12, that's just going to elevate Vantage to another level. So design-wise, no doubts here at all. And I want to read you something out of the press release for this car, right? This is how Aston describes it. The definitive front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports car, and a car that champions qualities difficult to find in today's sports car market, making a stand for for disenfranchised petrolheads. I'm paraphrasing some of that, but that's fighting words from Aston, right? And it's aimed squarely at the car market in general, and I think at rivals like Porsche, and particularly a rival like AMG, who have recently abandoned this purer format in their recent GT. This is really the personification of an Aston sports car. So it's a really exciting car. Now I'm going to give you every single detail about what's under the skin, what you can't see. So let's check out together this brand new Aston Martin Vantage. Guys, we are so lucky to have Manscaped, which is one of the world's premium male grooming brands, as a regular sponsor on RBR. We're used to them taking care of our big fuzzy beards and, well, everything else everywhere. But I think their best product that they've brought out is this little device here. It's called the Handyman, and it's perfect for getting rid of that 2 to 3 day shadow that we get under our beards. I absolutely stand by this device. It is compact, it's compact enough to travel with. It's got built-in battery with a USB-C port instead of some other stupid shaving port like most shavers have. It's got a blinky light as well to tell you when it's out of battery, and it charges up super quick. And as you guys know, I travel all the time on press trips to review cars, and this has been my go-to device. It's got 2 blades in here, so we've got your classic foil blade and a longer leveling blade to get the absolute smoothest finish possible. And it's got the usual skin-safe technology to stop you from getting cuts, etc. And of course, just like Manscaped's other products, it's waterproof as well. So for example, you can use it in the shower. So it's perfect. 60 minutes battery life, small and compact, USB-C, perfect for traveling, perfect for home. So of course, as an RBR viewer, you get a good discount. Use the code RBR on manscaped.com and you will get 20% off plus free international shipping. So that's RBR, use it at manscaped.com for 20% off. Huge thanks as always to Manscaped for supporting Remove Before Race. Now guys, let's head back to the episode. So my friend, it's been 74 years of Vantage. That's how long the name has been around. It originally started with a DB2 badge version of a sportier version of the DB2. And that then progressed eventually into the 1970s, where we had the first actual named Vantage, and it's continued since then till today's car and to the mad V12 Vantage that ended our previous, if you like, pre-facelift generation. So a load of stunning cars holding this name Vantage, and the new one has got a more difficult job than I think any of them, coming into this whole new world of crazy powered hybrids, 4-wheel drive sports cars, stupid 0 to 60 times and torque figures, etc. Yet Aston is here, by their own words, fighting the good fight, trying to keep a pure rear-wheel drive front-engine sports car on the road for us enthusiasts. How have they done it all? What is different compared to the previous Vantage? Let's start talking about that now. And the first place that we must start is the best place, is of course the engine. We've still got a wonderful 4-litre V8. As you know, from the past, it was famously loaned by AMG, but now huge changes to the engine versus what it was previously. We know the output, as I told you, 665 PS and 800 Newton meters. So that is a huge 150 PS uptick over the previous engine. We've got 15% more torque as well. How has this all been done? Well, a number of really important changes to the engine. First of all, larger turbos, we've got modified cam profiles, we've got different compression ratios, and most importantly, to handle the thermal increase because of the new power, we've got better cooling, all thanks to that 40% larger front grille. So the reason that we've increased that front grille by 40% is because we've got 2 additional coolers for our front main radiator. We've got 50% larger surface area for our oil cooling as well, and generally 50% more air coming in to cool the engine as well, because of course 665 PS coming out of this, it needs to be cooled, and it needs to be cooled all the time depending on how you're driving this car. Now what that does, of course, it gives you a much more powerful engine, but it's also an engine that is going to feel more visceral in its power delivery, and they've really focused on the vocal characteristics. And if you want to hear what this thing sounds like, wait till the end of the video when I turn this baby on. Now that is linked still to the ZF 8-speed, but again, this has been upgraded. We've got a shorter final drive ratio, which means in-gear acceleration is going to be more exciting. And In addition to that, the shift times are quicker depending on what mode you're in as well. And again, all of that kind of falls to the wayside because what was really important for them was the chassis, and it's tuning it for driver engagement most of all. So it's still a 50-50, perfectly balanced weighted car, which is great. But then the changes under the skin are massive. We've got new adaptive dampers from Bilstein, DTX dampers, which there's a lot changed compared to the previous hardware, but the biggest figure that you need to understand is that the breadth of ability of these dampers is up 500% versus the previous hardware. And that's in all forms of driving throughout all the different modes. The other update here is to our famous E-diff that they use, the electronic rear differential. That can go from 0 to full lock within 135 milliseconds on launch control and can generally react within 60 milliseconds as well, which is damn quick. And then in conjunction with the ESP, it can adapt its behavior depending on the corner that you're in to make the car feel even sharper in turning. So it's a really clever system. Speaking of ESC, this has again been updated heavily, and you've now got a 10-stage traction control available. And interestingly, in the launch control, you can adapt the amount of slip that you have as the driver through that traction control system to allow for as much or as little slip as you want. So full control for the driver. Again, in terms of handling, they spent a huge amount of time on the electronic steering, or the EPAS system as they call it, to make it as receptive to the driver's commands, but to give a lot of feedback. You know, that granular feedback you feel through a steering wheel. That was a really key thing for them. We've got things like a non-isolated steering column as well. Like I said, all the changes to ESP and the E-diff to make that steering feel even better. Can't wait to drive it and see how that actually feels. And the other thing to do with steering, which is really important, and grip, are the new tyres, where we've got Michelin's brand new Pilot Sport S5s, but these are a specific compound that Aston have worked on with Michelin, so they're specific to our new Vantage. And then the other really important part is stiffening. Now, this car already sits on their bonded aluminium platform, which was great in terms of dynamics, but now it's stiffer. We've got a cross member that's moved further down the car to make the car stiffer. We've got a lighter brace in our engine bay here, which is again more rigid than the previous one. Our rear is 29% more rigid between our suspension towers. Our under trays, again more rigid both in the front and in the back. So again, lots done in order to then aid our new dampers in doing their job. So again, it should be a really, really dynamic car. So really good basis, loads of power. I think it's going to have a good shot at putting that power on the road as well. So I can't wait to drive it and see how it does. I want to circle back to the design for a second, because I find it always so useful to compare these cars in the exact position they're in to other cars. And when you look at this directly compared to your pre-facelift, if you like, even though this feels much more than a facelift, you can really see a big difference. You can see a difference in the width, you can see a difference in the aggression of that front end. Even that little detail on our side wing really, really helps. I think it looks great. And you compare it even to the V12 Vantage, it's like, it looks closer to that than it does, in my opinion, to the standard previous one, which is it's a good kind of jump forward, right? If anything, it looks quite similar to DB12, which is a nice thing. And of course, this is first Vantage. There could be more additions, there could be more powerful things. Now, the other thing that has had huge upgrades is the interior. Let me show you what that looks like right now. So guys, how about this for a massive, massive change? The outside, it's a bit wider, a bit more aggressive on the front, but inside, completely, completely different. If you've seen DB12, very similar to that, but then more sporty, just like you found with Vantage in the past when we used to have that quite kind of cluttered center console, which I personally liked, but it rubbed a few people the wrong way. This is better, I think, in a lot of ways. I love the use of carbon fiber, even versus DB12. The carbon around our vents here within the center console, it just makes this look that much more sporty. I'm not going to go too much into the infotainment system. It is made from scratch, because you talk to a lot of people, they think it's still somehow based on a Daimler Mercedes thing. It's not. This is an all new infotainment system made by Aston themselves that they've invested a lot in behind the scenes, but I think it's going to pay dividends, because now it's working the way they want it to, rather than going the crazy screen route that Mercedes do. Because you look at this car, and in fact, let me show you, you've got actually tons of analog bits. Just look at the view from here. You look at your gorgeous carbon center console, how many buttons we have here, including the wonderful exhaust button. You've got your suspension, heated seats, all of these things that annoyingly you normally have to find within the infotainment system on modern cars. They insist on having buttons here, and it's a tough case to make these days because screens are so much cheaper. As we've seen all the manufacturers preferring them. Here, Aston have a button for almost everything, and I think it's just enough. For the driver, of course, you have your drive select here, you've got your gear lever, park button, manual, and of course, when you put it into manual, these huge shift paddles on the new steering wheel, which looks fantastic. As I said, not going to go into the DB12 based infotainment system today. We'll save that for the drive. It's more to show you just how beautifully analog this car is inside. This new dash is gorgeous with the matte carbon fibre, and my favourite bit I think is the cowl around our driver zone here, again with carbon fibre, looking quite stunning. This is a totally different Vantage interior to the past. Highlights for me are the way that this is all structured, the fact that you can get those amazing V12 carbon buckets in here, and when you option this car now, you can have multiple leather choices on your front dash as well. There's lots going on in terms of individualization, which will become more apparent when our configurator comes online, and we'll all waste a lot of time using that configuring a Vantage, I think. But yeah, big upgrade inside, big upgrade under the hood as well. Exciting car, can't wait to drive it. One final thing left is to show you what this car sounds like. And now the final thing that's left is to just turn the car on and listen to that V8. Can't wait to drive it. That's your brand new Aston Vantage.